I was listening attentively earlier to the questions raised by all of you, including the minority leader. Unfortunately, medyo naputo yung linya ko, ano? So I didn't catch everything. But nevertheless, Mr. President, let me try to follow up on some of these questions. No? First, let me ask the PhilHealth, no? Maybe the legal officer. Who is the chairman of PhilHealth today?
Tony Del Rosario.
We have two legal officers. Attorney Labe siguro, corporate legal officer, Your Honor.
Attorney Labi.
Yes, Mr. President.
Please respond.
The chairman of PhilHealth as of today is the Secretary of Health, Secretary Dopito.
The Secretary of Health, no? Okay. Kung siya yung chairman, sino naman yung ibang ex-officio chairman ninyo? Or rather, ex-officio members ninyo? You have Secretary Duque as chairman, and we understand why he is the chairman. PhilHealth is a very important institution as far as healthcare is concerned, di ba? Okay? So who are the other ex-officio chairmen?
If I may, Mr. President, the ex-officio chairman are the Department of Finance Secretary Dominguez, the DSWD Secretary General Bautista, the DBM Secretary Secretary Wendell, Department of Labor and Employment Secretary Bello.
Okay. So these are the five bago yan linagay natin sa batas, isn't it? Under the Universal Healthcare Law, no? Okay? At ang dahilan bakit natin linagay yan, para bantayan precisely lahat itong mga allegations of corruption also in the PhilHealth. Ngayon nagtataka ako, bakit wala sila dito sa hearing natin?
We originally in the first committee hearing, we did not deem it necessary because we were concentrating on the officials of the PhilHealth and not including
correct.
official officials. Now, in the second hearing, we informed Secretary Duque, but we just got the request of Senator Drilon yesterday. So he was informed last night. He is now in Davao. He has said we'll attend the next meeting if we're going to
Okay,
have one.
got it. Thank you.
But he is right now in Davao and cannot attend.
Yes, thank you for that, Mr. President. The reason why I make mention of this is precisely when we did write the Universal Healthcare Law, we included them as ex-officio members. Sila dapat yung big brothers, so to speak, dito sa board ng PhilHealth para bantayan itong problema ng korupsyon na paulit-ulit na lang. Most of these allegations we've heard in the past, and that's why we tried to correct them. And like I said in the previous hearing also, we increased the penalties. May kulong ngayon yan, hindi lang suspension. May kulong. Yung mga maglalabag dito sa batas na to, may mga dagdag na penalty. Ngayon, ang budget ng PhilHealth, hindi ho ba roughly mga 250 billion? 150 yung regular, another 100 billion sa reserve funds. No? Ang budget ng Department of Health, 100 billion lang. Sa makatuwid, ang budget ng buong health natin for 2020, lalo na sa pandemic ito, ay roughly 350 billion. And yet, itong pinakamahalagang ahensya ang laban sa pandemic at yun ang problema natin ngayon, ay parang napabayaan. And we don't hear anything from the big brothers in the board, so to speak. Hindi o ba't may kinatawan ngayon dito ang Department of Finance in the hearing? Aren't they here today? Is there a representative of the DOF here?
We will check online, but right now, presently, or physically,
Presently, wala.
Mr. Chair, I'm Sharon Almanza of the Bureau of Treasury,
Yes.
representing DOF.
Yes. Do you represent the secretary in the board of the DOF?
Yes,
In the
sir,
PhilHealth?
as second alternate to the Secretary of Finance. Honorable.
Okay, so you sit in the board.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what have you guys done in the board to ensure that the finances are intact? What policies have you recommended to the board?
Sir, especially for the assessment of the National Health Insurance Fund, we recommended to the board an assessment by the Insurance Commission to check the fund sustainability as well as the actuarial evaluation. Because we also recognize that there are certain assumptions by the actuary department that we need to also check and validate. So there's
Correct.
an ongoing assessment by the Insurance Commission, sir, on the fund sustainability and also on the valuation
Yeah.
of the actuarial
Correct.
department.
Okay, but what about the corruption issues? What about the IT system that is the most important? Have you guys double-checked?
Sir, on the corruption, I'm one of the the most senior in the sense member of the board. But in one board meeting, I manifested and requested update because I was there when the president directed the PhilHealth to cleanse the corporation. So I requested for update from PCO Morales on the status of all the pending cases. But during that time, he mentioned that he's still investigating or still studying the pending cases, especially on the alleged corruption, Mr.
Yes. What about the policies with regard to IRM? Didn't you guys take an active part in that para bantayan ninyo yung tamang paggastos ng IRM funds? Hindi ba trabaho din ninyo yon in the board? And that's why the ex-officios are there. More so now that we have a pandemic.
Sir, when it was presented to us in January, they mentioned that they are authorized to propose funding or financing mechanism so that hospitals will have options and will have liquidity. And it was presented in January, initially to respond to Taal. So that's what I remember when it was first presented. And then on the second time that it was presented, they just highlighted the importance of having an IRM to provide liquidity and so that the hospitals will have available funds to respond to this pandemic. So that's how the management communicated the IRM to us. Mr.
No, we understand that. No? The point is, didn't you guys in the board discuss these issues na may palakasan, halimbawa, dyan sa IRM na yan, hindi na bago ito, what assurance did you get from the management committee, halimbawa, na walang palakasan dito, na tama yung paggastos ng IRM. That's precisely your job in the board, di ba? Okay? Hindi dapat trabaho namin sa Senado yan, trabaho ninyo yan eh. But since hindi ninyo nagawa yung trabaho ninyo, it is now in the Senate. Isn't that correct?
Sir, we raised the issue of release to the management, the guidelines, because we also heard complaints on the releases to hospitals because the specific releases it's not being discussed in the board, only the high level, so just on the policy side, but the hospitals, the specific releases to each hospitals, those were not discussed to the board.
Yeah, but that should be part of the policy. Alam naman ninyo yung issue ito, matagal na to, hindi naman nagbabago yan eh. But let me get to another point, no? I will not belabor the point, but let me stress the importance of all the ex-officio members in the board. Kayo yung mga big brother dyan na tagabantay ng buong board ng management ng PhilHealth. Kaya kayo nandyan, no? So let me ask now COA. I think the COA chairman is here, no? How many COA people do we have in PhilHealth? How many representatives of COA do we have there?
Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon, Ted. Yes.
Actually, we have 17 auditors,
17.
including one administrative assistant there. So he's not doing any audit work.
Okay.
So out of 17, only 16 are doing audit work.
Okay. There are roughly 35,000 claims a day. Don't you think we need to ramp up the number of COA people we have in PhilHealth?
Yes, sir. We recognize the fact na talagang COA lack auditors, lack personnel. But I think our chair is in a best position to reply on that.
Yeah, but what would you recommend? Kung kulang ang 17 ninyo, you're 35,000 claims a day. Ilan ang kailangan ninyo dyan? Ang alam ko, ang COA ngayon may opening 5,700 positions. Your plantilla, you have 5,700 positions vacant. Why can't we put more in PhilHealth? Why can't we hire more?
Hello?
Yes, please proceed. Yes.
Yeah, we have a lot of vacancies. Fortunately, we have a huge number of people who retire every year.
Yes.
So to give you context to it, back in 2000, COA had about close to 12,000 foreign bodies. But for some reason, a decision was made back in 2000 to stop hiring. So that by 2010, because of this stop hiring decision, the number was less than 8,000. We were about 7,800 at the time. We've tried to grow that. Now we're about 9,500. But part of the problem is, to give you an example, 2 years ago, we hired 900 people, which is good. However, about 400 retired also in that year. So our net hiring was only 100. So it's actually quite slow. We're actually ramping up because the audit scope is really broad. And kulang rin talaga sa tao.
Correct. And you have an opening now of roughly 5,700 people, is that correct? So you could allocate a little more personnel for PhilHealth also, I suppose. I would presume that to be a yes, Mr. President. And if you would allow me, because the signal is weak, not just let me go on. Can I ask also the PhilHealth naman now, is there a resident ombudsman in PhilHealth? Meron ba tayong resident ombudsman sa loob ng PhilHealth?
Wala, sir. Wala po.
Wala. Okay.
Wala po.
Then I suppose we should have a resident ombudsman, no? So meron tayong dalawa, dagdag na kawat, resident ombudsman. Palagay ko makakatulong din yan. Now, let me move on, no? Just a few more questions, Mr. President. Yung testing today, magkano na nagagastos ng PhilHealth sa testing sa COVID patient? Let me get to that, no? Dahil ito ang pinakamahalaga ngayon sa atin. How much has PhilHealth spent for testing today?
I estimate so about 380 million, but our finance SBB can give more accurate figures po.
Okay.
Renette?
But thereabouts lang. Not more than 400, 500 million. Thereabouts lang, ano?
Opo.
For testing. Okay, I'll take your word for it, Mr. President. So napakaliit. You know why I ask this question is because marami nagre-reklamo sa akin mga local government na hindi sila nakakapag-test dahil wala silang pera pambayad. At ang pagkaalam ko, ang national government dapat ang magbabayad ng testing. Particularly in this situation, it is the PhilHealth. We will never be able to defeat this virus if we don't test. At kung wala tayong budget for testing, there should be a budget. You have 140 billion with PhilHealth plus reserves fund of another 100 billion. Diba? So why is it that we've only spent 400 million? And I'm not blaming you, no, Mr. President. There must be a policy by the board, led by the chairman of the DOH, I suppose, on magkano ba ang gaga. Okay, so sa ngayon, hanggang ngayon, 400 million lang. Ang alam ko rin ngayon, marami nagre-reklamo na kung makapag-test man din sila, it takes a week bago lumabas. Bumilis na nung nakaraang ilang linggo, tapos ngayon bumagal ulit. Next, just PhilHealth for COVID patients.
So
Yes.
it's the IRM we have advanced about 15 billion, but we have only received claims of about 1 billion. So the claims are just starting to come in.
Okay. And those claims of 1 billion are part of the IRM or separate?
IRM po.
IRM. Okay.
Opo.
So ito yung mga in-advance na ninyo, which incidentally, just for the record, let me say that all of this was discussed during the debates on the universal healthcare. Okay? And if I remember the language correctly, the PhilHealth shall endeavor to be able to do advance payments. Kasi ang problema nung araw, delayed yung payments sa hospital. Okay?
Opo.
So walang problema as a policy, as far as I'm concerned, yung IRM. Ang problema kung meron man yung palakasan. Di ho ba? Kasi tama naman yun eh. Para hindi delayed yung payment eh.
I don't necessarily agree, Senator, that
Yes.
we don't accept that there is influence in the release of the IRM.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from, no? But, you know, as presented by many of our colleagues here, it would appear na meron na palakasan. But I'm not questioning the IRM. So let me move forward, no? So as of today, ang nagagastos ng PhilHealth pa lang, if at all, for testing, 400 million. And for COVID patients, if at all, the entire IRM of 14 billion, ang claim supposedly 1 billion pa lang. Okay? With those numbers, there is no way na bababangkarote ang PhilHealth. Okay? Let me put that on record. Second point, no? Okay. Have you submitted to the committee already your latest financial statements or June? I've not seen a copy of the latest financial statements of PhilHealth with the committee. Is there have you submitted them? Has it been
I'll
submitted?
check with our financial manager. I think we have, Senator, but I think SBP Lim Siaco can confirm that. Renette?
Mr. Chair, Your Honor,
Yes.
President, may FS, and then we will submit the June FS to the Senate, Your Honor.
So the June has not been submitted yet. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Wala pa. Okay. Okay. Now, I'm a bit concerned when they say that the debt to equity ratio. As I presented last time in our last hearing, malaki ang surplus ng PhilHealth. Isn't it that you have a retained earnings of about 110 billion, roughly thereabouts? Ito yung reserve fund din nyo.
Opo.
Di ba?
Opo.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
wala pa naman kayo nagagastos doon, ni isang sentimo.
Yes, sir. We still
Tama.
have a hefty reserve.
Correct. In fact, even today, your benefit payments as of today is probably lower than what you paid last year.
That's
Kasi
correct
walang
po.
claim sa inyo Takot ang tao pumunta sa ospital
That's correct po.
And if at all, your revenues that are hit are the members' contribution today. Dahil marami na wala ng trabaho.
Opo.
But as far as sin taxes are concerned, you should not get a hit because that's 2 years preceding. Yung nakolekta 2 years ago, ang mapupunta sa inyo this year.
Nasa 71 billion lang ho yung nakuha namin.
Correct. Di ba? And that's
Opo.
why the DBM secretary sits in your board. Yung utang ng national government as prescribed by law, dapat ibigay nila sa inyo.
Opo, if according to law, yung galing ho sa sin taxes.
That's correct. Okay, so I just wanted to put that of record. Mr. President, I do have a lot of suggestions. I will submit those in writing
President.
at the appropriate time. I'd like to thank the resource persons for answering our questions. And I have no further questions for now, Mr. President. Thank you very much.